Greetings, children of the screen, your friendly neighborhood Nerd Scum here once again, and welcome to the new year on Channel Nerd Scum and another disease dose of Crossed for you. This time we're going to be taking a look at Crossed Badlands number 53, part 4 in Garth Ennis's prequel story arc, The Thin Red Line. And if you missed the last installment, a link for the Cross playlist is popping up right now, which has that video on it, as well as all my previous Cross content. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that little bell for notifications so you don't miss the next installment. So, with that out of the way, and no further ado, we once again enter a world of loss, a world of lunacy, a world of lament, the world of... We open on the distraught, exasperated faces of the Prime Minister, Alistair, and Harry's men, as Dr. Chopra has just delivered her horrific findings, which, if you don't remember from the previous issue, she basically just saw the Crossed fully formed for the first time, and has just begun to understand how the Crossed virus works, and how world-ending it potentially can be. Then we jump outside to Harry and Patty going over the situation with this big Dolph Lundgren-looking motherfucker, Gary. Gary questions, any idea what the score is? Some of the things we saw on the way in here look pretty bloody dodgy. Harry tells him it's likely to only get worse. They can seal the Prime Minister in if need be, but he's hoping that it won't come to that. Gary asks what the rules of engagement are since this time out they're on proper British soil. Harry replies that anyone unaffected can be sent on their way, but if they're reluctant or if mob mentality starts to take over, feel free to fire a few shots over their heads. Gary wants to know how they're going to tell if someone has been exposed, but Harry reassures them that if they're fully developed, he will know, and if they are, take them out. Gary, knowing the answer, asks that if they're talking about infected civilians here, that would likely include children. The haunted look on Harry's face is confirmation enough, and Gary walks away mumbling that he can't wait to tell the boys about this one. The base's command center is a catastrophe of politicians and military personnel speaking over each other, all trying to best mitigate the damage of the outbreak. And then the news comes through that Britain might not be alone in this. France, Pakistan, and Chad have all had incidents, though they're having trouble collecting information. However, the consulate in Australia was able to trace the infection to a single patient in a hospital in Adelaide, resulting in a massive quarantine. Alistair grabs onto that information, stating that a single patient is exactly what's happening to them, and that might prove what the Prime Minister had previously thought, that this sounded like a coordinated attack. But Harry and Patty question who put them in place, because as Dr. Chopra said, this is such an explosive virus that it would certainly rebound back on the instigator. The Prime Minister responds that for the time being, they have to make the priority containing the outbreak. Whoever's behind this, they can't do anything about it until they identify them. He then asks Harry if he learned anything else from Patient Zero. Harry's response is not good enough for Alistair, and Harry tells him that if he believes it's time to employ enhanced interrogation tactics, then he suggests finding themselves an expert, and oh yeah, don't forget to give him a hazmat suit. This sends Alistair into an uncontrolled rage. He shoves his finger in Harry's face, exclaiming that of course this is the time for it, they're under attack, and if Harry doesn't have the balls to do what needs to be done, then what's the point of having a bunch of thugs like him on the payroll anyway? Harry just takes a step towards Alistair, getting face to face. Alistair immediately recoils his finger and begins to cower ever so slightly as Patty tries his best not to crack a smile. Alistair quickly begins trying to backtrack and talk himself out of an ass beating, but finally Patty steps in between them, telling Alistair that even a wee child could see to fuck off right now, seriously. Still stammering, Alistair gives them some space. Harry tells Patty there's not enough human excrement in the world to build a suitably evocative statue of that man, but we may be getting to a point where he's right. Patty asks him to please repeat himself, but Harry just moves forward, stating that the fact is, the condition of the infected has changed. He doesn't know how to describe it, but he doesn't think the men they knew are coming back. But the conversation is interrupted by one of the Prime Minister's aides, stammering, Jesus Christ, into a telephone receiver. He then informs the Prime Minister that they have a confirmed report of a nuclear airburst over Delhi. Harry states that this is getting less amusing by the second. Patty responds, saying that he just thought of something. Taff and Jock, they've got wives and kids at home. Then after a beat of realizing the implication of what he just said, fuck, sorry, Harry. Harry stands just beyond the observation glass, eyes fixed on patient zero. Arms crossed defensively over his tucked-in knees like a wounded child, yet his mind is anything but. Patient Zero thought that there was a kindness under Harry's expression that made him want to tell him the truth. Tell him, he thought. Tell him how you close your eyes and see Cambodian skulls stacked and ordered in rows like apples at the harvest. How you keep entering those Balkan camps from 92, wet dreams of infants screaming out in pain. The godhood you felt as you snuffed out your family. Tell him, he thought, but instead he raises his head and tells Harry, I'm sorry, I can't. But based on that, Harry questions, so you do remember something? Patient Zero tells him that it's confusing. He has trouble differentiating reality from the things his mind is just spewing out, and if he starts, he won't be able to stop screaming. Harry tells him that the reason he asks is because things are getting bad very fast, and he wishes there was something that Patient Zero could tell him because the next man who's going to come and ask is not going to be so civil. Harry then tries again. Who do you think it was you hurt? Someone you care about? Wife? Girlfriend? Do you have children? Patient Zero tells him that he wishes he could, but if he does, the dam breaks, and he's no use to anyone at all. He thinks he's a good man. He's trying so hard to push it all back down. With a sympathetic look, Harry just tells him, so's the whole world, son. Keep trying. Back with Thomas, Jackie, and Bill Joseph RAF, things are not going well. Thomas and Jackie aid Bill, who has a seriously wounded leg, moving as fast as they can with the cross not that far behind, but they have finally got enough distance that they can take a moment to examine Bill's leg. He tells them that there is a location 20 miles from there, 5 as the crow flies. They just need to head north across the moors. Jackie sees the cross closing in and she declares, Shit, Tom, there are just dozens of them. Quickly, they try to pull Bill to his feet, but he draws his gun on them and screams, I'm done! My orders are now your orders, so fuck off and carry them out! They briefly try to argue, but it's no use and they head out. As they run, they can hear Bill dispensing the last of his rounds. After 14, the fight is over, and they know Bill is gone. Harry returns to the command center to find that shit hitting the fan has so many more levels than he could have ever anticipated, as the Prime Minister pleads with Vladimir Putin over the phone. Apparently, a contingent of infected Air Force pilots are flying 40 aircraft towards the United States. NORAD says that the moment the aircraft enter their airspace, they will be shot down, and because the aircraft are potentially carrying nuclear weapons, it means the United States will also launch nukes, forcing Russia to respond in kind. There's much discussion and arguing over how something like this could even happen. The Prime Minister informs them that it seems like an infected person must have found their way into the Air Force Base water supply. And this once again triggers Alistair into freak-out mode. Oh my god, they put it into the water, they put him in place, just like us, it's just like the character we've got locked up here. But the Prime Minister is tired of Alistair's shit, pleading that he just calm down for God's sake. The Prime Minister then transitions into stating that he's not even sure how much validity to put into the information from NORAD. As in reality, this is a call that should be made by the President, so until he's able to confer directly with the President of the United States, no decisions will be made. The stakes are just simply too high. As he's saying this, one of his aides informs him that they have the White House on the line. An obvious wave of calm washes over the Prime Minister as he straightens his tie, stating that this is bound to be a little bit embarrassing. The Yanks always seem to have such a better handle on this sort of thing. But his and everyone else's expression quickly shifts as the call comes through, and all that can be heard on the other end is the distorted cackle of the Crossed. And that is where this issue leaves us off. So there you have it, children of the screen, part 4 of Crossed the Thin Red Line. What we have here is once again a tense and engaging and more or less well-executed issue. The strong parts of the writing from all previous issues are still present here, but they're kind of taking a back seat to too many of the same problems that have accompanied them for the last several issues. There's still a bit of character development with Patient Zero, getting to see a little bit more of his interior life, but just as previously, the majority of their main characters seem to be stuck in their holding pattern. The attempt here is to increase tension with each issue, upping the ante of the threat outside, making these characters' personalities more pronounced, but due to the general decompression and relatively small scope of the story given its circumstances, it never really feels like progress, just a repeat. And again, the relatively small scope of what really is a very large story is also a bit of a hindrance. If this were a TV show where you had to keep your budget low, then I could definitely see this being a tactic that would be used, but here there are huge things happening that we only get to hear about secondhand through our characters. And this could be very interesting if we were only seeing the world through their eyes, but there are multiple times in this narrative where that breaks and we go outside of that point of view. So it is already established that the story is capable and willing of opening itself up, it's just not being done. Even if it were just a matter of our characters hearing about something and explaining it while we see those events play out on the page, that would be enough. Again, this is not a movie where you have to worry about your budget. Your artist can draw anything, and they're talented enough to do it. As I've mentioned previous times, here there is a lot of instances of telling instead of showing in a story that isn't designed in a way that would prohibit that. And while everything I've been saying here sounds pretty negative, I do want to state that it's not necessarily bad writing per se. What is on the page works for the most part, but it just feels lazy. As for the artwork in this book, it is still pretty top-notch. The artist can only draw what is scripted, and everything that is on the page is very well handled. All my previous praises for the artwork in the previous issues hold absolutely true in this one, and there is nothing I can point at directly to detract from any of those previous statements. In other words, the artwork is still dope, and I dig it. Right on, children of the screen. So in closing, I did like this issue, but it just feels like there are a lot of things that it could and should be doing that it's just not. But in fairness, this is issue 4. Traditionally speaking, in any story, this is the section where there would be a lull, as we introduce some new ideas and some new developments and pave the way for the penultimate issue and the climax. So maybe this lull that we're getting, these kind of holding patterns, are setting something up that will pay off real big in the next 2 issues, and I'm still enjoying the story enough that I'm willing to give it the time to find out. But children of the screen, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, so please give it a like and share it with your friends, and I will see you guys next time. Nerd Scum.